Thank you for watching Knowledge is Power, Visualizing JIRA's Performance Data. We've received a lot of questions during this presentation, and we're going to do our best to answer as many as we can in the next 10 to 30 minutes. Without any delay, let's get started.
So we're just going to go through some of the questions that have been asked, and I'll try and answer them as best I can. So let's have a look through. The first one looks like, how did you produce those graphs? If you missed it earlier in the talk, I discussed that this was all made with the JIRA Log Analyzer tool. So all graphs that you've seen during this presentation, including the one at the beginning about the demo and just the higher level analysis, that was all done through the log analysis tool, so all taking access logs. Another next question, how can I control some of those own applications actually killing our JIRA server due to load? So this was discussed earlier when I was talking about the general strategies and keeping track of when people put external software or change the hardware you're currently hosting JIRA on. This is a bit hard for me to give like a definitive answer on this because it's very dependent on the company and how they work. I would just make sure that the people, your managers and the people who are in charge of this, are aware of how much contribution JIRA does to your workflow and how important it is to make sure it's constantly up. So even having discussions about the performance gains you get, the more effective you are in the workplace with JIRA, and making that case and saying, look, if we look at the performance monitoring data, we can see that this application externally to JIRA is killing us in our server, and which means we're less productive in our day-to-day. And so maybe a justification like that would be helpful. Again, I can't really say what the best practice for this would be because it's different for every company. Every company has a different way of looking at these things. Okay, so let's have a look at another question. Will the log analyzer ever be open sourced? Okay, that's a great question. I'm not too sure at the moment. It's still a work in progress. You might have got a good quick snippet when I showed the board we have for the project earlier. I'm still in the process of finalizing some things and getting a new version released. It's not my full-time project as of now. It's part of some other 20% time that I do, so I don't have the full amount of time that I did at the beginning when working on this project. So until I get the next version released, no, it won't be open source. But after that, that'll require discussion with people, my managers and other people who have a vested interest in the log analyzer, and we'll discuss the benefits of it being open sourced. Because I would like it to be open sourced. Atlassian is a big, we love to try and open source things as much as we can and contribute to open source. So if we can put this tool out there as open source, it would be really great. And being able to get feedback from everyone else and getting improvements, those who use JIRA just as much as we do day to day, understanding what they want, really great to get. All right. So next question looks like, is there a way to quickly react and avoid performance issues by quickly analyzing logs? Alright, so this sounds like your guys are asking can I use log analysis to do real-time analysis? The answer is yes, if you can set it up right. So really, for the log analyzer tool, it takes a little bit of time to generate all the graphs. It wouldn't be instant, but you could if you could write scripts or have another way of just constantly feeding the log, getting log files, executing the log analyzer tool, generating the graphs, putting on a page, and constantly doing that and refreshing the page. Sure, you should be able to do similar thing to real-time analysis using log analysis tool. And it's not just the JIRA log analyzer, other log analysis tools I'm sure would be the same. It just comes down to you setting up either scripts or other custom environments to execute these graphs, get these graphs made, and then move them to whatever page you're displaying this on or application. So yes, it should give the same information. The reason I distinguish between the two is normally that's not how you'd use it, but it's definitely a possibility. Okay. what do you recommend for performance monitoring from the user perspective? Client side, not just server side. So this is an interesting question. The JIRA log analyzer tool should cover client side events mostly. I think using other tools is important. I would say that sorry, this is a bit hard. I don't normally look at client-side things when it comes to my side of performance monitoring, but definitely using the log analyzer tool should get you client-side information, and I would investigate. I think New Relic also provides some sort of client-side feedback. It's just hard sometimes to distinguish between the noise of the server side, but yes, you should be able to use similar software for client-side. Sorry if I didn't answer your question that well. Is the analyzer working for the other applications as well? Unfortunately not. This was designed specifically for JIRA in mind, because it was made internally in the JIRA team. Internally we have other log tools for the other products, but it's not something we give out externally. So no, unfortunately not. This analyzer is just for JIRA. Maybe one day the other products will have something similar. This starts to pick up, and if we ramp it up more. But as it currently stands, no. The JIRA Log Analyzer tool will only work for JIRA, and that's all versions of JIRA. So JIRA Software, JIRA Service Desk, JIRA Core, and any JIRAs. Okay. Let's look at questions. The next one. How many people were involved in this Atlassian log analyzer? What roles were involved in discovery and research for this log analyzer? Okay, so normally there isn't too many. So this was originally created by the architect of JIRA, Mark LaSalle. He was the one that wrote the original code. There's been a few contributions along the way. So I've been contributing. Current dev manager Graham Carrick was doing it. Contributed a little bit before I started on the project. For discovery and research, we did quite a bit when I started. I worked with Kerrod Williams, so he's a PM here in JIRA. He did a lot. I worked with him a lot on talking to some people, looking at feature discovery, what kind of features we need to get accurate performance monitoring, and what sort of things will make it really helpful for doing this sort of analysis. So that's so yeah, I think those are all the roles involved. There's not much. It's not a big team. This was sort of like a small project in the bigger enterprise team when it was being worked on. So it wasn't a full team working on this, but we had investment with a couple of places. Okay, let's move to the next one. Using Splunk or similar is an inventory of strings to grep on. Okay, I'm not entirely sure question, but okay, sorry, I think I get it. So yes, so using Log Analyzer tool, you should be able to pick out you can pick out key strings, so it depends what you're looking for really. These logs use simple Apache logs. It's quite similar. So there's the request, how long it took, the status code return. So you could, if you knew what else you were looking for, so let's say you were really, want it invested on the view issue page. That's one of the most commonly used pages in JIRA. You want to know how, it's going for all your users. Sure, if you could put in, a generic URL for the view issue, and then, made sure you grepped for the, response code and the time it took. Yes, you should be able to use things like Splunk to get a bit of a accurate sort of collation of all the view issues. So yeah, if you know what URLs you're looking for in the log files, you should be able to get those sorts of results that you're looking for when combining it with Splunk. Next question. Is it possible to make an add-on so that we can view it directly in JIRA? Yes and no. So my goal towards, in the future for this is for it to be an add-on in JIRA. I think it's a lot better if it can work as an add-on. It also gives us a few benefits of that with an add-on, we could stop doing log analysis and start doing real time with this, or both. So given the capability of doing both, just because now that we're integrated into JIRA, we can see everything and kind of intercept the requests as they're going and record them. And that means we get access to the database, which means we can do a lot more with this sort of information that we could do with the log analyzer. So being able to keep track and seeing how things change. Also, the log analyzer tool currently, I wouldn't ever recommend running it on production systems, just because sometimes it can do a lot of work and it can be quite taxing sometimes in quick bursts. So this means that if we had it integrated with JIRA, we could do it, create this sort of stuff asynchronously, not try and do it all at once and do all these calculations at once, which makes it a lot better. So at the moment, externally, so if you were a third-party ecosystem developer without source code, no, you wouldn't be able to make it an add-on. If this ever went open source and I didn't have immediate plans on the roadmap for my time to make it a add-on, I can see it becoming an ecosystem job. So yeah, it's a bit of a mixed answer. In the future, hopefully yes, it is possible. But in the immediate time, no, it's not. And that's sort of the TLDR of summary of that sort of question. Okay. So the next question that looks like, does the log analyzer do big performance at all? So I'm assuming this question is referring to, like, if I had a large enterprise system, can this log analyzer handle it? Yes, it should be able to. So, this works for all our internal JIRA users. Also works on Jack data. So Jack, if you're not aware, is a place where you guys can go, and so that's jira.atlassian.com. Sorry, and you can put your suggestions and bugs, report bugs and things like that. So we can use that off the logs there, and that has about 400,000 users. Not as much activity, but definitely it is a large enterprise scale instance. This was designed. It doesn't design implementations. The only thing would be that it could take longer to generate the amount of data you put in. But other than that, it should work regardless of the size of the instance it's on. So I would say yes, it should work perfectly fine with big performance. I've had a talk with a customer or two who have used this tool, and they say it works fine for them. We've used it to diagnose problems with customer instances before who are running large enterprise scale systems, even those running data center currently now, which is, as I talked about, some of the improvements I've been trying to make on this. So yes, the answer is it should work for big performance. The next question is, what logs are used with the log analyzer? So all the logs that are used with the log analyzer is actually, if I say the full name, it makes sense. So it's the JIRA Access Log Analyzer. So it looks at the access logs. So that's all the HTTP requests going in and out. So those are logs it uses, which is why it's so accurate at getting the timings and everything. It doesn't go off it doesn't go off Catalina, for example. So the main JIRA system logs, app logs. So that's why it's a bit more accurate with those recording times. It does mean you lose a little bit, I can't say, oh, it was this method happening here that caused this, but it definitely gives you a good snapshot of all the timings of what's happening in your system. Let's move on to the next question. What about events that aren't in the log files? So events that aren't in the log files. So I would say that all events that you should be looking for are in the log files. This is all looking at HTTP logs. So any sort of HTTP request, REST requests going from the system itself, from a plugin, from a Connect add-on. Sorry, not Connect. This is only usable in system. So any sort of plugin that is being used in the system internally, any REST requests coming outside into your JIRA instance should be recorded in the HTTP access logs. If you've used this before, someone's posting this and they've used it before and they found that sent events aren't going in, please send us a message on, leave a suggestion on Jack about this, because it's quite important that if we're missing an event, if you guys are missing events, then it's possible that we're missing events internally that we haven't noticed. So like I said, I'm not quite sure what events you feel are missing. It could be that you're thinking that it's using a different log files than it actually is. So like I said above, it should be the HTTP access log, so everything on there should be going through that. So please, leave a message if that's the case. Next question. Let's see, we can keep getting questions. Please keep sending them. Can Log Analyzer also take in proxy logs and help correlate? Absolutely. So these proxy logs are in the same format of the JIRA HTTP access logs, and they haven't been mutated at all due to however you're using your proxy. Then yes, that's fine. So the logs files, Log Analyzer as it stands, is an external tool to JIRA. So this means that it doesn't, isn't tied to JIRA. It doesn't need to be the logs are coming directly from JIRA. You will be, when running this application, you will be passing it the directory of where these files are located. You will be telling it where to find these log files. So if you point it to where your proxy logs are located, it will suck them in and it will try and read them. Obviously, if the logs are mutated or aren't what it's expecting, it will just reject them. But if they're exactly the HTTP access logs in a similar format, then you should be fine. You should be able to correlate with that. So yes, in the answer to that question. Let's look through. Using New Relic is difficult. Using New Relic, it can be difficult to separate cause from effect. Do you have any thoughts or strategies for separating signal from noise? This is a interesting question, and actually a very good question. This is a problem that we have at Atlassian as well. This isn't just a simple problem. I go through this a lot all the time. I think really separating signal from it comes down to correlation. So looking for key things. Basically, I'm looking for things that I know. So I have a good knowledge of my system when JIRA runs. I'd like to think I have an idea of when things go wrong. So really what I'm looking for is what exactly has gone wrong and trying to match up for that. So it's a bit difficult. It comes down to the system. If there's any general spikes, I'll try and match up. So if I look for the REST request, I will have a think about what sort of matches up with that. So if I know it's coming from the view issue, I might have an idea, okay, what's been the problem with that? Using New Relic, I also tend to look for other things. So the REST request, sort of the calls going in can be a bit noisy, so I'll start having a look at database transactions as well, because New Relic does support that. So I'll start having a look and see, okay, was there any change in database spikes? I'll try and look for something that sort of correlates at the same time as these events are happening, just to get an idea. So it's really sort of a unique case. I would say, yeah. So I would look for multiple things. So when using New Relic, I would try and use that. I'll also use our log analyzer tool to kind of get an idea if they're matching up. So I'll take the logs that New Relic's currently looking at, I'll feed them into my log analyzer tool. I'll have a look at the graphs and see if I can start picking out events that are the same, because as we said, the log analyzer tool is designed a bit more for JIRA than New Relic is. So I'll have a look and see, if there's anything that we're picking up in ours that is a bit of a signal that something's going wrong in a particular area. So that's normally my strategy for those sorts of things. If you're using New Relic in a different system other than JIRA, I would do something similar, and I would start looking at database transactions and seeing what is actually happening internally. I hope I answered your question there. Let's have a look. Okay, so next one, if we wanted to write our own log analyzer tool, do you have a suggestion on software or strategies we should use while building it? Okay, that's an excellent question. So running your own log analyzer tool, I don't think it really matters what software you use. If you find, don't think that really matters in the end. I think you should write with what you're comfortable with. I can't say, oh, Java's the best for writing this, or, it definitely has to be a functional programming, Scala log analyzer to get the best data possible and the best results. It's basically what you're comfortable with, what you think you can work with well. When it comes to strategies, I think you should spend a lot, when you're writing it for the first time, spend a lot of time planning out what sort of information you want. So make sure you have a clear idea of why you decided you want this log analyzer tool, because it's really important you don't just write it because it would be great if we had it and there's a couple of things. Make sure you have a real need. So like when we wrote ours, obviously I wasn't there initially when it was initially wrote, but I had a chat with our architect, and it was just coming down to we needed a quick way of, we know the key areas we wanted to look at, the key requests, what we wanted to see, and we need to quickly identify what was happening. So we needed to have a look at these certain requests and do it in a certain way, and we knew what our logs looked like, so we could change them perfectly look at them perfectly in the way we wanted to get that information. So, and we knew what information we wanted. We wanted graphs, on these requests for, requests, response times, in-flight requests, things like that. So we knew what sort of information we wanted, and then when, as I discussed earlier with the roles, myself and Karen Williams, we had a discussion about what we needed now that things have changed when it was initially written. What sort of tooling do we need to accurately give, customers feed, if we're doing any analysis on problems, what sort of things do we need to make a real accurate sort of deduction, and what would help give us the best information on this. And so, when it comes to logons, I would spend time writing down all that information you want, all the information you need from your system, and then how you want to display it. Okay, so, what sort of graphs do you need? Do you want it, in percentiles? Do you need the in-flight request for yours? Are you just looking for response times from these certain things? Do you want to be able to customize it? Because at the moment, if you use the tool, we only just say, give us the top 5 categories. Maybe you don't want that in your tool. Maybe you want to be able to select a particular REST request at any time and go, this is the one I want to look at right now. So really make sure that you have all the features you want written out beforehand, because it's easy to let scope creep, and it's easy to see, is it worth building this tool? Do I have enough want and need and features that I need that I can't get? And that's another important fact. Make sure when you list all this stuff that you want, make sure you can't get it from elsewhere. Building it can be quite an investment. So if you say it in like, oh, we just want this and this, and it's nothing really super, super specific to your system, then maybe you should, we can just grab, a different tool and customize it a bit to suit our needs, rather than spending the time writing one from scratch. And, I said earlier, build your own because you know your system best. And so this is definitely the case. If you know your system best, if you want that, then you should definitely do it. If you want this sort of information, and you realize that it is very unique, then definitely go building your own. So those sort of strategies I would use. If I sum it up after all of that going through, so identify all the information you want to get out of this, identify what types of graphs you want, what sort of information, how you want it displayed, and then look at other softwares, out-of-the-box solutions, and see, can I get that information I want? If you find that what you want is super specific to your system, then yes, then you've made the right decision to write your log analyzer tool, write it with software you want to write, and get those logs out. Okay, I think I answered the question. I think we have time. I think we have, let's see, one more. At the moment we only have one more. Do you think it's better to invest in log analysis or real-time performance monitoring? I don't think it's an either-or situation we have here. If you heard me going through the questions we've answered before, I've kind of discussed about using both types of software. So I really think you can use both effectively, and I think in the end of the day, performance monitoring actually sort of works best sometimes when you use both, because you can use it to correlate. So there was a question earlier that said, how do you separate cause from fact? How do you, get through the noise? And that really happens sometimes when you're doing real time. Sometimes it's hard to see through the noise. Log analysis, it's if you've used an Outbox solution, you've customized it, or you've written your own, you kind of have a directed input. So if you take the situation where an incident's come up and you're like and you see it in your real-time performance monitor, you see it happening, you're like, I can't see exactly where this is coming from, the database isn't clear on what's happening exactly as well, so you take those logs grab the logs as it stands now, put it in your log analyzer tool and start correlating. You can start seeing requests that look bad, and you go, okay, those are the ones I'm looking for, and you go back to your real time and you try and narrow down onto those and see what's happening and what's been the cause and what's changed. Sort of using both allows you to get a better strategy going in certain situations. So it's like, I don't think, it's not an either or. I think really you can use both. I'm not saying that you need to do performance monitoring. I'm definitely not saying that you need to invest in both log analysis and real time to do performance monitoring. There are benefits, but then they don't have to both be there to get the best out of it. So I think they suit different situations sometimes. If you have a production system, if you have JIRA that's currently, always been used, you have critical customer use and you need to make sure that, you can transition people, maybe you have another backup JIRA or something like that. Maybe that's better to have in that case if you have like one that's used internally, and, if it goes down, you can use log analysis because hopefully there's other work that they can be doing at that time that they don't need JIRA straight away. That sounds... Sorry. Okay, so I would definitely say that, it's not either or. I would see what situation looks best for you. So, it's different for everyone. Some people, they don't really see the need to have it real time happening now. If an incident happens, they don't have the resource capability to answer it straight away. So they can, look back at it later and have a look and see what happened and then change it for the best. Other people who are using, JIRA, let's say, they're having it facing externally for, they have external customers contributing to it, then yes, I would definitely, they want real time to see what's happening and making sure customers aren't affected. The users who aren't affected using their JIRA instance they're hosting. So yes, as a summary, I don't think it's an either or. I think they both have their place. You can definitely use both. We've discussed in this question and previous questions how using both can sometimes be helpful. So I think it's up to you, and I think you should really have a look and see what's going to work best for you, what sort of information do you want, and what sort of reaction time do you constantly want to these problems. Most people say, I want the problem solved straight away, but sometimes you don't have the capability, the expertise in the area to do that. So it's better to come back to logs, have a look when people have time.
So that's it for today. Thanks to everyone who sent in questions. If you have more questions you'd like us to answer, please visit answers.atlassian.com and/or ping us on the social network of your choosing using hashtag AskJIRA. Keep an eye on blog.atlassian.com for the latest news, and don't forget to click the subscribe button to get the latest videos from us. As always, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.